Coming up this week on episode 14 of Skywalking Through Neverland.
Hey, guess what today is?
It's Richard's birthday!
I guess the Oscars didn't snub Disney all that much because Lone Ranger got 2 nominations.
Admiral 80s got stuck in a tree in his DeLorean.
So that was kind of fun to be the only villain
Nice.
to run.
Someone was nitpicking the color of the Luke's lightsaber from one panel to the next.
There was I think 8,000 girls to 2,000 guys.
Yeah.
Now I want to go check it out.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Ladies, listen.
A billion years in the making.
Off to Neverland.
What do you know?
You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll kiss $3 goodbye.
Hey, everyone, and welcome to episode 14 of
Skywalking Through Neverland, the podcast that celebrates you, the fan. This is Sarah, also known as Jedi Tink.
And this is Richard, otherwise known as Sith Rich. Coming up this week on Mousedroid Mixer, we have an interview with Star Wars author Michael Kogge.
Also on Mousedroid Mixer, we have my friend Monique Harr. She's going to talk about all her runDisney race experiences and the ones that we're looking forward to this year.
And this weekend. Let the training begin.
Yes.
Also, we have our countdown to Star Wars Celebration Anaheim and Star Wars Episode 7. Before we get into today's show, we have just one more thing to attend to. Happy birthday to me.
Richard. Happy birthday to Richard.
Hey, guess what today is?
It's Richard's birthday.
Today's my birthday.
And do you know what he wanted to do most for his birthday? He wanted to work on the podcast. That's so cute.
Sarah said we can go out and take a day off. We can go to Disneyland, but I just really wanted to work on the podcast.
Mr. Motor.
And it's really the gift that keeps on giving to everybody.
Oh.
Now, let's continue with the show.
Well, Richard's birthday also marked the date that the Oscar nominations came out.
There were a lot of surprises, a lot of snubs, unfortunately.
And Saving Mr. Banks, I think, was really snubbed, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I could have, when I saw that movie, I was like, Emma Thompson, she is a shoo-in for Best Actress. And now she wasn't even nominated.
I guess the Oscars didn't snub Disney all that much because Lone Ranger got 2 nominations.
Something's a little off.
Yeah, time to watch People's Choice Awards.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah. We called up Skywalking Through Neverland's film analyst Mark Oguschewitz to get his opinion. So this morning, very, very early this morning, the nominations for the 86 Academy Awards went out. Now, there were a lot of surprises in all categories, especially when it came to Disney. Now, what did you think about the snubs and the nominations that the Disney films have gotten for 2013?
I'm not necessarily sure there were too many snubs for Disney. I didn't really expect Disney to be getting a lot of nominations. I think that Emma Thompson not getting recognized was a little bit of a surprise, and I would like to have seen Paul Giamatti get nominated for his role in Saving Mr. Banks, but I'm not necessarily surprised that didn't happen since he had such a small role.
Why Paul Giamatti?
Paul Giamatti was like my favorite part in that whole entire movie, and I think it's basically because throughout the whole entire picture, P.L. Travers comes off as very snotty and snooty, and we don't really care about her, but he brings... that character brings this heart and soul to her that allows us to really care. And I think his character was actually vital to the success of the film, even though he's in very little of it. And I think the way that Paul Giamatti played it was pretty amazing. He played it in this very kind of subtle way that a part that could have been in your face wasn't in your face. It brought out in the Emma Thompson character such a element of humanity that as much as we wanted to hate her, we could still kind of see some good in her. And I think it wasn't necessarily how the character was written. I think it was how Paul Giamatti played it.
Now, what do you think about Tom Hanks being snubbed for his role as Walt Disney for Best Actor?
I'm not surprised that he didn't get nominated for that. He had a stronger performance this year in Captain Phillips, which I can't believe he got snubbed for on that. But Saving Mr. Banks, his role in Saving Mr. Banks, although he played it really well, it didn't really have any kind of. The Academy seems to look for like those character changing moments. And as much as Tom Hanks embodied Walt Disney, which was a surprise to me, I actually thought I was going to be bothered by the fact that he didn't look like him, but he kind of embodied him in such a way that he pulled it off really well. But I'm not necessarily sure the role or the performance was that strong. And then I think that when people were voting for him, they were probably voting for him for Captain Phillips. And if anything, the fact that he was in 2 movies might have hurt him, because if you're voting for him half for Captain Phillips, half for Saving Mr. Banks, then the nomination, the votes that would have gotten him the nomination, they might have been split in half.
Right.
So people might have been pulling for him, but since they were kind of voting for him in 2 different places, it hurt him.
That's a very interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, if you're playing 2 roles and people, you got 75% of the people are voting for you over here, but that 25% of the people are who want to see you get nominated are voting for you in a totally different role, then you're not going to get as many votes.
Right.
So why do you think Saving Mr. Banks didn't get nominated for Best Picture?
I'm not necessarily sure it was a big enough picture, and
Really?
In the sense that it wasn't getting the acknowledgement that I felt it deserved, because it told a little bit too small a story. If you look at the films that got nominated for Best Picture, they're more of that art house kind of wowing factor, oh, look how amazing a filmmaker I am kind of films. Whereas Saving Mr. Banks was just telling a very simple story, and generally the simple stories, if you look in past years, get kind of ignored. If you look at at least as I'm looking at the list of Best Picture nominations, they look like a list of things like, what films would you study in film school, as opposed to which films are really good films that most people are enjoying. And Saving Mr. Banks, I enjoyed it very much, and it would have been on my top 10 list. But when you talk to Academy voters, they're looking at the art house movies, and they're looking at the artistic movies, and they're looking at the movies that, have that kind of seriousness to it.
Now, the Oscars have been accused of being very political in the past, and I'm surprised that since Disney now owns, everything, that didn't weigh in on at least nominating Saving Mr. Banks in some of the bigger categories.
Or even Frozen for Best Picture.
Well, I knew Frozen wasn't going to be nominated for Best Picture because they have an animated category now.
Right.
Which actually is not fair to the animated films, because now people are going to say, well, I nominated that for Best Animated Film, so they're going to vote for something else for Best Picture, which I think is a little bit unfair to some of the animated films. As when it comes to the animated films, well, I had really nothing to compete with this year, so
right.
It'll probably take that category. Frozen was a really great animated film, but it's not like I thought Tangled was better. I thought it was more memorable. I thought it was more impressive. I was surprised.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I was a little surprised to see that it didn't get nominated. That song, Do You Want to Build a Snowman, didn't get nominated for Best Song, especially over some of the songs that were nominated. That Happy song from Despicable Me, for that to get a nomination over Do You Want to Build a Snowman, I can't figure that one out. If my life were to depend on, it doesn't make sense that would get nominated. It's such a corny kind of unappealing song.
That was a turning point in the movie for me. That's when I was really in. Like, okay,
in
you
Frozen?
want to build a snowman?
Okay.
And Frozen.
I also feel they chose the wrong song for Frozen, but
I don't. I actually thought "Let It Go" was the only song that made me tear up, and I really liked it.
Really, because to me it felt like Let It Go was the more commercial, and it seems to me like when the Academy is choosing songs a lot of times, they choose songs they think will sell, like albums, get attention and play in the radio, whereas to build a snowman, Do You Want to Build a Snowman? It's a little bit harder to play that on the radio. I think they did it last year with Man or Muppet as well, whereas there was a better song in that movie too. The song where Kermit's walking down the hallway looking at the pictures, I forget the name of it. It's like Pictures in My Mind or something like that. Much better, much more emotional song, but Man or a Muppet will play on the radio. And I felt this way with this one too. I thought that Do You Want to Build a Snowman was just this really emotional kind of start to this story that really had a lot of meaning and a lot of heart to it. When I listened to Let It Go, I didn't think it had that. Although I'm not saying Let It Go didn't deserve its nominations, because I was re-listening to the songs this morning, and That Happy shouldn't be nominated. The Ordinary Love, I'm not sure should have been nominated.
Right.
I did like a couple of the other songs, like Alone Yet Not Alone, which is for a movie nobody's ever heard of, is actually a really, really beautiful song. So
Frozen only got nominated for 2 Oscars, being Best Animated Feature and Best Original Song with Let It Go. How many nominations did Mr. Banks get altogether?
Saving Mr. Banks got nominated for Original Score. That's it.
That's it?
And that's all that I'm on the Academy Awards website, looking at it by movie name, and it says Original Score. And it did have a beautiful original score. It wasn't the most memorable score to me, but there was one piece of the score that I just thought was some of the best film scoring this year, and that was at the end when they're watching the movie, and they had this piano version of Chim Chimney, I think that's the name of it, that I just thought was amazing. Absolutely amazing, and he should get nominated just for that alone.
So Disney also did score with Best Animated Short with Get a Horse, which played right before Frozen.
I really thought that Get a Horse was one of the best animated shorts I'd seen in a long time. It was just really smart. It was really ingenious.
It also has the distinction of having Walt Disney voice Mickey Mouse.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you look at the credits, Mickey Mouse is voiced by Walt Disney.
Right. Well, it seems like, a lot of times Disney puts more effort into some of these smaller projects than they do some of their bigger projects. We haven't seen a short that good in a long time, and I liked how it was kind of a throwback, with showing the old, Steamboat Willie character. And to me, if we were rating the movies we saw this year of any kind, that would be on the top of my list. In my top 5 movies, would be that short.
Nice.
So Lone Ranger's got him a couple of nominations too, which is depressing to me to think that the Lone Ranger is going to have a DVD out there that says Academy Award nominee.
Yeah, Lone Ranger for 2 nominations and Saving Mr. Banks gets 1. There's an issue there.
So the Lone Ranger got nominated for...
The Lone Ranger got nominated for 2 awards, actually, makeup and hairstyling and visual effects. It's actually kind of depressing, and I think that the Academy really is going to need to explain itself on this, because you're going to give The Lone Ranger, just one of the worst movies of the last 20 years, a nomination for visual effects, but you're going to totally ignore Pacific Rim, which was a really good movie. It wasn't a great movie, but it was a really good movie, but the effects on that were incredible. The Lone Ranger was just a joke of a film. If it wasn't for Man of Steel, we would be calling it the worst movie of the year.
That pretty much sums up 2013.
Well, and pretty much. But I also would say that the Razzies need to answer for themselves, because they didn't know. If you look at the Razzie Awards for this year, they didn't nominate Man of Steel either. Or I don't know if I don't remember if Lone Ranger was nominated, but. But like I said, I feel like I look at the nominations and it feels more like, the Academy Award. The Academy has to nominate the movies that look like, hey, we know what we're talking about, which is why the Avengers didn't get nominated last year and stuff like that. They have to nominate the serious pictures rather than the stuff that people are really out there enjoying.
Right.
Do you want to mention that Oz the Great and Powerful was completely ignored?
I'm good.
Well, I guess we'll find out all these answers when the Academy Awards airs March 2nd on ABC.
Well, I have some interesting news this week, Richard.
What's that?
Well, I was actually asked to be on the podcast Assembly of Geeks as Jedi Tink.
Which is a great show.
It is. It's a really fun show. They have a very imaginative format in which you, the geek, are listening to their show and you get to join them in the assembly with your costume and talk about the week's events.
For those of you who grew up on the Super Friends cartoons of the 70s and early 80s, where they have Ted Knight and Back to the Hall of Justice, they go on that premise as if you are entering their assembly of geeks. A very, very well-produced show.
Yeah, by Scott Murray and Jeff McGee and Trisha Barr. They are all on that show. And last week, Trisha Barr was unable to make it, so Scott Murray asked me to fill in for her.
Did he ask you, or did he ask Jedi Tink?
Well, once you join the Assembly of Geeks, you have to have an alter ego, and I just so happen to have a built-in alter ego already, Jedi Tink.
So what did you guys discuss this week on Assembly of Geeks?
Well, we talked about my Star Wars and Disney fandom and how it all started. We also talked about our podcast, Skywalking Through Neverland, and we also talked to Ed Dollista of the IndieCast, who joined us and discussed his show. So we talked about the Indiana Jones franchise, Star Wars franchise, and some Disney news items as well. So go ahead, go on over to assemblyofgeeks.com and have a listen.
And did you get to talk to Ganon?
I did.
Ganon is Assembly of Geeks' version of Hal, like from 2001, A Space Odyssey.
Yes. Yeah.
What's Ganon really like?
Well, Ganon and Admiral 80s have this thing that they don't like each other, so I know.
Why are they hating?
Well, I don't know, but I ended up being the hero on that podcast because Admiral 80s got stuck in a tree in his DeLorean, and I cut him out.
Well, who couldn't see that coming?
I know. Anyway, it was a very cute episode, of course, because I was on it. No, I'm just kidding. And it's great that they always have a fangirl perspective, too. Like when Trisha can't make it, I notice he always finds another girl to fill in, like Kristen Hackett or me. So we hope to be doing that again soon. You can also find Assembly of Geeks a link to their page on our homepage, skywalkingthrough.neverland.com.
Connection complete. Transmission commencing. Hello. I apologize for the interruption. I will return you to this podcast in just a moment. It's important that you know that not everyone can hear this message. Only the few listeners that I have accurately identified as Super Geek material. My name is Ganon. I am the Geek and Nerd News Intel Network for the Assembly of Geeks. We are a network of super geeks that gather at the Fantastic Fortress to discuss passions, issues, and controversies of our geek world. You have been identified as a super geek and are therefore invited to join our meetings. Before you are given security clearance to the fortress, I must make sure that you are truly a super geek. I will now make a statement and measure your emotional response. Controversial statement coming in 3, 2, 1. Jar Jar Binks could whip Boba Fett's wimpy ass any day of the week. In fact, he could do it in less than 5 parsecs. And the Sarlacc pit doesn't even have to be nearby. Yep, just as I thought. You are a super geek, and you now have security clearance to join the Assembly of Geeks. Find out more at assemblyofgeeks.com. Please come to the assembly in costume. Thank you for your time. I will now return you to the podcast you're listening to.
Be our guest, put our service to the test. Tie your neck and mind your necessary, and we'll provide the rest. So please your hot hors d'oeuvres.
On today's Mousedroid Mixer, we have author Michael Kogge. Michael is very well known for a lot of his Star Wars work, including articles for the Star Wars Insider, in addition to having written material for Tops, West End Games, Fantasy Flight Games, the Star Wars Adventure Journal, Wizards of the Coast, and the new Empire of the Wolf comic series.
Here he is, Michael Kogge.
Cool. Well, yeah, so I'm looking forward to this podcast, and, guide me through it, and in whatever you'd like to ask, go right ahead.
Yeah.
You know what? We've done a lot of research since we've met you at Long Beach Comic-Con, and you have written a lot of my favorite Star Wars Insider articles.
Oh, have I? Okay.
Yeah, you wrote the story on Russ Manning's comic strips, the interview with James Caan, who wrote the Return of the Jedi novel.
Which is a great novel, isn't it?
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, it was. Obi-Wan is Uncle Owen's brother?
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was 14 years old reading that, I thought, oh my God, I am privy to insider information.
Yeah, and they never really repeated that except in that novel. So you kind of he had a secret if you read that novel.
Yeah. Then when episode 2 came out, I was like, whoa. This is not what I remember.
Yeah, it changed things. It completely did. But James Caan was awesome.
And even your article on the Star Wars radio show. So you wrote a lot about things that I grew up on, so I really connected with those articles from the Star Wars Insider.
Oh, I'm so glad you read them. It's hard to tell who reads them because for the Insider you don't get many comments.
I guess not.
So you don't know who's reading the article, but. The radio plays, well, we can talk about that, but that was a labor of love to do those articles.
Were you approached to do those, or did you approach them?
Well, I was originally going to do those articles for a book, and a book about Star Wars, and that book just, for a while, it just went nowhere with the publisher. It wasn't my book. I was just writing it for the book. And then, so I took all the information that I got and I went to the Insider and they're like, oh yeah, we love this stuff. And they didn't even realize at the time it was the 30th anniversary of the radio plays. So it hit the right moment at the right time,
What book were you working on that you were writing these articles for?
It was a book of essays, for a guy in England, I guess. He was doing a kind of an expanded universe book, exploring the expanded universe, but it didn't get published.
What was the first article you had written for the Insider?
Well, for the Insider, it was those radio, the 2-part radio play articles, and I did it on the New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, and then Return of the Jedi. But my whole career in Star Wars goes all the way back to writing for West End Games back in the early 90s. I wrote this piece called The Business of Bacta, which took the liquid that Luke floats in after the Wampa attack in Empire Strikes Back, and I kind of created the background and the history for that. And that was at a time when a lot of the things in Star Wars were still new. A lot of things hadn't been explored yet. Things still needed to be labeled, identified, given a history. And, I approached West End Games with this article idea, and they liked it. And I created the planet of Thyfera, and then a couple of years later, I noticed that Thyfera is an actual. It's in the novels, and it's like a major planet in the universe. So that was kind of interesting to see that happen.
That's awesome.
Now take this in the spirit of what it's meant, but you may have been the reason why I failed my freshman biology class.
Oh, how did I do that?
Because I was going to Emerson College in Boston. I was in between classes. I went over to this underground comic book store, and lo and behold, there were new Star Wars books out by West End Games, and I got like everything they had. Because this was at a time when a new Star Wars book was coming out once every 4 or 5 years. Mm-hmm. So I got all this stuff, and I just read. That's all I would do for that semester. And the only time I could read was during the time of my biology class. So I failed miserably. But you know what? I gained a lot of Star Wars knowledge.
Yeah, those West End game books are they're wonderful. Once in a while, I'll go back and I'll read something and then I haven't. They're just so creative. They're so big. They only had a limited time scope of the universe to kind of to do. But my gosh, there's so much creativity in those books, and there's so much fun to read. From the Star Wars source book to all the way to the last books. I really like the Truce at Bakura source book. If you've read that, with Kathy Tyer's fiction in between the different capsule summaries, that's an amazing book. I thought that was like one of their best books.
Now, are these West End Games books before the Thrawn trilogy?
Some of them were published before the Thrawn trilogy. Yeah, the Thrawn trilogy was in '91.
Okay.
So I think this West End Games got the license for Star Wars in 1987, but and then they had it for about 3 to 4 years, and you had things like the source book come out and some of the adventures, and those books actually in the Aliens Guide, Galaxy Guide, which Troy Denning wrote. Mm-hmm. He wrote that volume, and those informed Timothy Zahn in writing the Thrawn trilogy. So, one of the things about Star Wars, which is really neat, is that the continuity has kept through the licensees. There's been a kind of a relationship between the games, between even the cards, the trading cards, to the novels, to the movies, to the animated shows, to the comics. It all interrelates in a way that it makes it a lot of fun.
As a Star Wars author, how big of a challenge is that for you? If you're writing something and you're on a roll, but now you got to stop to find out, would this character go? Would he go this way or would he go that way?
Yeah, it's part of the joy of Star Wars. It's also part of the and to be a Star Wars writer, it's also part of the, it's tough because there's so much backstory now. And with the encyclopedias, there's like 3 volumes.
Right.
There's just so much information. and also sometimes I think continuity actually gets in the way of telling a good story sometimes. So you always have to balance the two. I really want to tell a good story more than I want to follow the rules of continuity. Although some fans get very, they nitpick on. I was just reading some forum about the Thrawn trilogy comic books, which the first one, I think the art in that, The Heir to the Empire, is just amazing. But someone was nitpicking the color of the Luke's lightsaber from one panel to the next, and I don't know if they missed the point. But
I think they might have.
Yeah, but it is rather tough, and I know, and it is a lot of work, and it's research work, and it's not. Sometimes, it's work. It's not just fun and games.
Do you keep up with the expanded universe, or is there ever a time where you got to call Leland Chi, the keeper of the holocron, and ask him?
Yeah, I talk to Leland Chi occasionally, actually. But I generally have a really good working knowledge of Star Wars, and I footnote just about all my additions in my fiction work. So, and I try not to expand too much in places that I don't have the authority to do that. And I think that's one of the things Star Wars authors, do know, that they can do so much change, but they're not going to overstep the boundaries of the universe because you'll have to rewrite it. So.
Now, have you been a fan since the very beginning?
I have been a fan since the very beginning. Yeah.
Since the original theatrical run.
Since the original theatrical, yeah. The first film I ever saw was Star Wars.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was, 4 years old, I think, and I went to go see it, and I still remember sitting in the theater watching the film and seeing the cantina sequence. And just as a kid, I was just mesmerized by all the monsters in there. It was just an amazing experience. So, and then I remember a little bit of Empire, and then I remember Jedi too. And Jedi was great because after Yoda asked, or Luke asked Yoda about Darth Vader, is he my father? And Yoda says, "Your father, he is." I asked my own dad. I was like, "Did he just say Darth Vader was his father?" I was, as a kid, you were still kind of like, "Is that true? Is it really true?" You didn't want to believe it.
He's the bad guy. Of course, he's lying.
Yeah, exactly.
So, did Star Wars inspire you to be a writer?
It had a definite influence. I think I still would have been a writer even if I hadn't seen Star Wars, because I love the creative process and I love story. I love books. I love movies beyond Star Wars. And I love all the genre stuff, and I like, the literary stuff too. So, but Star Wars has had a big impact on my career and on my development as a writer. And it's a universe you can't really leave. It's going to stay with you, I guess, till the end. Even though sometimes you try to back off from it because there's so much Star Wars.
How were you approached to write your first book, or did you write a spec story?
I started in West End Games, and the way I started was I became a play tester for their second edition of their game, game book. And then they started this thing called the Star Wars Adventure Journal, which was a quarterly publication that had short stories and it had short source articles. It was just a marvelous, like a book-length magazine. And I approached them, and I wrote a short story, and I also pitched them an article on Bacta. And the short story they rejected, but the source article on Bacta, they said, yeah, we really like this. So I wrote it up for them, and they published it. And from there, I basically started my career in writing Star Wars. It gave me a jump start because, not a lot of people have had that opportunity. So it really got me started. And from there, I went to the Star Wars Galaxy magazine, which was a great magazine back in the mid-'90s, run by Topps. I did articles for them. I did one on the radio play, actually Return of the Jedi, when that came out in '96. And I actually went to Tom Vegley's studio in Minnesota to interview him while he was mixing Return of the Jedi, the radio play.
Oh, wow.
So I got to hear it. I got to hear it beforehand. And that was really cool. And I remember I even inserted a sound or something in one of the speeder bike chases. Yeah, so that was a highlight. I love the radio plays. I grew up in the radio plays before people had VHS decks to watch these things. I had them on tape. My uncle had taped the radio plays on the Washington, D.C. NPR. And I would play those things over and over again. And of all the things in Star Wars, those are definitely my favorite pieces. And I've taken a lot of that love, and you can see it in some of my later pieces with the Despotica. There's a radio play in that web series I did for Star Wars Hyperspace, and then I also did the making of the radio plays for The Insider a couple of years ago, which I think was just republished in the latest Star Wars Insider annual magazine for this year. So fans can read that again if they'd like.
How would you describe the Despotica?
Well, the Despotica, I pitched the Despotica as a Greek tragedy of Zim. And they Pablo at the time was running the hyperspace, and he had asked me to submit a pitch.
Pablo Hidalgo, correct? Yeah.
Yeah, and so he asked me to submit a pitch or something, and I came up with this a couple weeks later about Zim the Despot, and I said, you know what, it would be fun to do this as a Greek tragedy, and I didn't hear back for a while, and then he randomly emailed me and said, yeah, we like this idea, go for it. I don't think I told him I was going to write part of it in verse, in poetic verse. I don't know if I bet people would have been nervous if they heard that, but I just went ahead and did it. And it was one of the best things I did, I think. It took a lot of time. The Despotica took a couple of months of work. And that was really a labor of love because I got to engage with Brian Daley's works. I tried to find a voice. There are four parts of the Despotica, and they tell the story of Zim, who is basically the first emperor in the Star Wars universe. 25,000 years before the Empire, there was another empire. There was another emperor. His name was Zim, and so I told his story four different ways at four different parts of his life through the lens of different playwrights. So all four of the pieces. The one is a Greek tragedy. The other is a film script, as if George Lucas had written it. So there's a little more comedy, right? The third one is Brian Daley, a radio play, as if Daley had written it. I mean, that's how I looked at it. So there's a little wit and a wink, wink. And the last part was the introduction, which summarized what the Despotica was and how it was this kind of huge pile of literary documents within Star Wars that everybody goes back to retell over and over again. And my attempt with that was actually to talk about Star Wars and talk about fandom and talk about continuity and how we love these stories of the same heroes, and there are conflicts, there are problems. They don't always mesh up. And yet that's okay because it's our love that kind of is the reason we return to the universe rather than us nitpicking, I think, for, different color of lightsaber or whether Luke was here at this moment or on this planet at this other moment. So,
And we had first heard about Zim from Han Solo and the Lost Legacy, right?
Right. That's his first appearance. Brian Daley, the novelist, created Zim.
And how did you pick Zim to be your essential character?
Well, I always loved the Daley novels. I still think they're the best Star Wars Expanded Universe novels. They're the best written novels, and for me, they're still the funnest. Daley knows how to evoke Han Solo's voice.
You're talking about the Han Solo trilogy, correct?
The Han Solo trilogy, the Han Solo Adventures by Brian Daley. Yeah, and Han Solo and the Lost Legacy is the third book in that trilogy. And Daley's he's a master. And to think he did that when he was like 30 years old is, and he pumped those books out. He didn't have much time. He had I think 30 days, 40 days to write some of those books. So he did a marvelous job, I think.
Yeah.
30 to 40 days write each book?
Yeah, to write each book. He had to pump them out. Yeah.
Wow.
So, and do you know the author Jim Lucino?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Darth Plagueis.
Darth Plagueis, yeah. He and Brian Daley were best friends. Brian Daley sadly passed away in 1996, but they were best friends. And Lucino would come over to Daley's house at night, and Daley would be pitching him the latest parts of his books. And that's how he pitched Zim to Despot. He said, "What do you think about Zim, Jim?" And and yeah, that's how a lot of those books were formed. So Jim Lucino was there at the very beginning too.
And now, the Despotica, is that still considered one of the first stories in the Star Wars timeline?
Yeah, it still is. It disappeared from hyperspace. Maybe it'll be brought back, I hope, from the hyperspace online supplement that StarWars.com used to have. But yeah, it's still considered the earliest kind of recorded story in Star Wars. I don't know if the Dawn of the Jedi. I don't know where that takes place in the timeline. The comics done by John Ostrander and Jan Duursema, but those are pretty close to each other. So what I did with the Despotica too, there's not one reference to Jedi or the Force in that. I wanted to write a Star Wars that could be something more than just the Force and Jedi, because I think sometimes Jedis and the Force, they kind of overshadow everything else. So, and what I liked about the Despotica a lot is that I kind of got free reign in the Star Wars universe. It was like taking the company Porsche around at 2 a.m., driving it and being able to do whatever you wanted within, some limits, but I got to really create the mood and the atmosphere of that time in the universe, and it was really liberating. I thought it was a lot of fun to do.
I've always wondered. We have movies and television, and we have books. What do they have? And now we know that they have the Despotica in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, so they go to the Despotica is like their Shakespeare, their Greek plays, their Greek myths. They go back, they retell those stories over and over again. And I thought that was a good way to use Zim and bring him into the modern universe with Luke and company, but also still keep his story in mystery. We don't really know what happened to Zim. We have many different interpretations of his life, and that's okay.
Has anyone ever worked backwards and said to you, hey, they mentioned your character in Han Solo and the Lost Legacy?
No, nobody said that yet. I look forward to that day, and then I'll tell them, no, it's Brian Daley. Brian Daley created Zim.
Wait a minute, that's 20 years ahead of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually last week, part 5 of the Despotica was published. I was asked by Jason Fry, who just did the Essential Guide to Warfare.
Yeah.
He asked me to submit a piece on the Despotica for the Essential Guide to Warfare. He wanted me to he wanted to include a piece on Zim, so I wrote an epic poem about Zim through the eyes of a Star Lancer, right, who was in love with him and his ideas, and yet by the end of the poem you find out what happens to her. So, but unfortunately, like a lot of the stuff that Jason had for the Essential Guide, it got cut. And I think Dan Wallace also wrote a piece for it too that got cut. But they're featuring these cuts, the extended edition, on the Star Wars blog on StarWars.com, so fans can read Part 5 of the Despotica. That's freely available on the Star Wars blog. You could read the poem. And I just reread it again. I wrote it 2 years ago, and I reread it again, and I think it holds up. So it's fun. There's not a lot of poetry in Star Wars, and I guess I've done that.
Yeah, except for that new Shakespeare Star Wars book.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Completely.
But that's awesome. Now I want to go check it out. But are there any Star Wars Easter eggs in any of your books?
Do you hide like little like something like an R5D4 or mention like the Imperial troop transport?
I think in the Despotica, I hide some stuff, and I hide Brian Daly's name is the name of a race of aliens, I guess. I took Daly and I made it Yalid. So
you would like that.
Yeah, and I think I took some other Abel G. Pena's name is in there. I kind of reversed a few things, but I take some of my collaborators or mentors' names, and I'll put them in there. And I did actually just do wrote a short story for StarCraft, that game from Blizzard, and I used Brian Daly's name of his first novel was called The Doomfarers of Coromundee, and I used the word Coromundee to be the name of the ship of this in this StarCraft short story. So I do sprinkle my own little Easter eggs. I tend not to overwhelm them because I kind of want to create my own stuff too. I think there's a limit on how much you can do that.
So with Star Wars Episode 7, you hear a lot of fans talking about, will they include the expanded universe? They won't. They will. They won't. If they would include the expanded universe, what of your creations would you like to see in the next film?
Oh, well, I guess if you're going to use anything that I created, I mean, of course, I'd love somebody to do something on Zim and maybe some of the stuff on Zim, but it would be fun to see Thyfera as a planet and mentioned in Episode 7, I guess. That would be a lot of fun to see that, to see that it's lasted and it's made the movies. I don't expect any of that to happen. I have no idea where they're going with the films. I'm anticipating it just like you. I'm looking forward to being surprised, and I want more than the expanding universe continuity. I just want a really good story and a good film, and that's the most important thing for me.
What's the behind-the-scenes word with all the authors about including the expanded universe or just rejecting the expanded universe for the movies?
Well, I don't really know. I haven't talked to any other authors about it. I know that probably this is a big debate among fans. It is gonna, if they do go over if they include parts of the expanded universe, that would be really neat because it would be a validation to a lot of the work that everybody's put in over the years. If they decide to go in another direction, I think they should have the freedom to do that, and if it fits the needs of the story. So those are the, I guess, two avenues. What do you guys think about that?
Boy, that's a loaded question. It's on one hand, I would hate to see them just reject everything that all you authors have written over the last 30 years. I think that would be a shame. Or if they even had mentioned, Han and Leia, no, they don't have any kids. I think that would be such a huge uproar with the fans. I would like to see. I don't want them to maybe focus on what the expanded universe has set up, but at least acknowledge it.
Yeah, well, I bet they will. I am not privy to any information about that, but I think there will be a kind of a validation of that. I think an acknowledgement of that, whether it be they follow all the continuity or they do something with the books, maybe where they retcon. That's always a possibility. And there are a lot of differences in continuity between the animated show and the novels and the comics, and there's just so much out there that you get to pick your own version of Star Wars, I guess, if you want.
That's very true.
I think J.J. Abrams is enough of a fan, a diehard fan, that he would never say, Mara Jade, nope, doesn't exist. Thrawn, never heard of him.
Yeah, you're probably right. He probably won't say that. I think the movie will stand by itself, though. I don't know if they'll reference things from the expanded universe, but I think it'll stand on itself because for the millions of readers there are of the expanded universe, there are almost a billion fans of the movie. So those are the people that he'll be really talking to too with the film. It's better to have the fans on your side than it is against you, I guess, right?
Oh. Right. But, he could always pull Star Trek 2009 on us and make it an alternate universe. And then he doesn't have to follow that.
That's a possibility.
No, it's not.
But Star Trek 2009 was an awesome movie.
It was an awesome movie, but don't even put that out into the universe.
Okay.
If midichlorians hear you saying that, and it goes back to him, I will never forgive you. So moving right along.
Yeah, actually, Mike, we met you at Long Beach Comic Con where you were you were promoting your new comic series, Empire of the Wolf. Can you talk about that?
Oh, absolutely. Empire of the Wolf is a project that has its roots in Star Wars, actually, because a lot of my team who helped create this 4-issue comic series are people that I met through Star Wars. I worked at Lucasfilm, at Lucas Books for a little bit, and from there I made a lot of connections with people in the Star Wars, artists, especially like Dan Parsons and David Rabbit, and they're two of the artists who helped produce this comic series called Empire of the Wolf. Empire of the Wolf is 4 issues. It's, if you had to summarize it, it's ancient Rome and werewolves, right?
Love that.
It's a good mesh of mythology and history. I spent a lot of time researching the history of, I think it's the middle of the century, the 1st century AD. A lot of time researching the languages, actually the languages of the Druids that are in, because the Romans start off in ancient Britain at the time, because by that time the Roman Empire was pushing northward in Europe. I took actually Brythonic, which is a Celtic language, and used that as a language for the Druid and her spells. So you have things like that with the dialogue. You also have Dan Parsons spent an enormous amount of time replicating the armor and the various accoutrements of the Roman armies, and the coloring. David Rabbit did such a great job in the coloring of those 2 issues. He did a great job with the mood of the period and the piece, and most of all, the story, I think, is. I mean, it took a long time to break the story on this to make it what it is, and I think it tells a great story about 2 comrades in arms who actually will turn against each other, and each is bitten by the werewolf, and it'll be a battle of werewolves for the same woman they love, all over ancient Rome. And as you read the series, you'll be able to pick out various events in the history of Rome of that time, and I think it works well. So I call it the true history of Rome.
Yeah, you had sent us a a preview copy of issue 1, and I love the way you blend the mythology into real history. It was fun picking out what was which.
Oh, wonderful!
I love that time frame, but since studying it when I was a kid in school, which was some time ago, I had forgotten about different aspects of it. So reading it, I remember, just the way they fought, and just the way they connect with each other. And then adding an element of werewolves. Wow, this is a fantastic series. And just the artwork really popped.
Oh, great. Wonderful.
I love when you say the armor, I love the way the armor was depicted. I'm a big armor fan.
You're a big costume fan in general.
Yeah, okay, more to the point, I'm more a big costume fan. So the look of it really struck out to me. And when I first opened up the email and I saw that, I thought, wow, that's a great cover.
Yeah, well, Dan is an armor guy too. He has all the books on Roman armor, and I learned a lot about Roman armor through him because I had to do. We did photo research for all that stuff. Photo research in the sense that, people did replica costumes, or somebody did drawings of the period. So there was a lot of research that went into those images. They're all based in reality.
You can tell.
Even the werewolves too. The wolf in Rome is linked. And in issue 3, I get to this, but I take the myth of Romulus and Remus, and that's a foundation for this story. Romulus and Remus were two brothers who were suckled by a wolf. They were left by their mother by the side of a river, and they were taken by a wolf, cared for by a wolf, and they grew up as wolf children, and they came back to the town where their mother was exiled, and they took over the town, and that town will later become Rome. But the two brothers fight each other, and Romulus kills Remus, and Romulus makes his town Rome. But I take something called the Curse of Remus, and I blend that into the mythology of the werewolf, since both of them were, they grew up as wolf children. So I thought the foundation was there for a really fun story to talk about mythology, Rome, and also just have a really fun comic.
What was the inspiration for tying in werewolves?
Yeah, the Romulus and Remus, actually. And also, when I was in high school many years ago, I took Latin as one of my languages. I took Latin and French. And my teacher in Latin, he had us read some Latin literature of the time period. And one of the pieces was a story about a werewolf. It was like the first recorded werewolf story in human history. Petronius. He calls it his werewolf a versi pellis, which is a changer of the pelt.
Okay.
And so that always stuck with me. And over time, I said, oh wow, this would make a really good story. And then I came up with Empire of the Wolf. So
it sounds like besides Star Wars, one of your loves is mythology or history. Is that
I love history and I love mythology, and that's what I do best. I love movies. I love biopics. I love the intersection of drama and history very, very much. So you can see that in the Despotica. That you can see that in Empire of the Wolf. I guess you can see that in a lot of the things that I do.
So no spoilers, but issue 3, are we going to see vampires?
No vampires in this one. No
sparkly vampires. What?
No vampires.
I thought they went with werewolves.
That's the next comic, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the next comic. Yeah.
I want to see the Romans fighting vampires and Frankensteins and werewolves and mummies and Count Chocula.
Yeah, well, there definitely could be more stories like that. I think there probably is a Roman vampire story. I bet. I wouldn't be surprised, because the Romans, they spread all over the globe, and they touched every culture, and I'm sure some came in contact with the vampire myth.
Nice.
How many issues is Empire of the Wolf?
Empire is 4 issues, and then it's right now it's on Comixology. We're going to do a campaign where we offer the print issues too. And then we're going to also, and then you're going to have the graphic novel published hopefully in the summer, and it'll be available through Diamond, and you'll be able to order it at your local bookstore or comic store.
Yeah, we've gotten Comixology not too long ago, and I'm looking at all these comics that I've missed throughout my life, and I'm beginning to think, I know. Is the paper comic a thing of the past?
Oh yeah.
It's a good question. I was kind of against digital Empire of the Wolf was published digitally, but I was against digital comics until just a little while ago. I kind of like holding my books.
Yeah.
And I like the feel of the paper, but I just read one of those Star Wars omnibuses on my iPad. I got
that turned your head, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, it really did. I was like, oh wow, this is great. This is really great. And it held the whole thing in there, and the colors pop, the images pop. I thought it was a wonderful reading experience. So I think digital comics are the way of the future. Actually, I think it's digital is a great medium for comics. I think it works better on the bigger screens too, like the full iPad, because
definitely.
You can see the whole page. When you're just doing panel by panel, I don't know.
Well, I think part of laying out a comic, the whole page it's part of the whole graphic design of it, and you can't lose that.
Oh, absolutely. No, every page is a piece of art by itself.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah, and so not only are the panels pieces of art, but the layout, the graphic design, every page is its own entity. And so I think when you do break up a page that's been laid out like that down into movable or scrollable panels, it does lose a lot of the dramatic effect of the page. Because when we turn a comic, we open the comic, we turn the page, and we see the whole page in front of us. You don't see one panel at a time, right? Mm-hmm. We get it all at once.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sarah and I just read Action Comics #1 with Superman.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And if it weren't for Comixology, we would not have the $15 million it would take to read that.
Yeah. Oh, is that what it costs? Yeah.
So now we can read stuff that we never thought we could get our hands on.
I love that. I really love this new wave of digital publishing, because now they're starting to go back to the classic authors, and you're starting to be able to republish books that haven't been published in a long time, and getting access to a digital copy versus no access at all is wonderful. And I also think, I have so many books at home. I don't know about you guys, that I just, the space requirements are getting.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just hard.
Especially, you live in LA too. Space is a premium.
Yeah, space is a premium.
I love looking at the binders of the book, but there comes a time where most of the books just go into a box in the garage because you just have no room for them.
Mm-hmm.
You can't keep them all up, and you can't read them all either, right? I mean, it takes a while. You have to spend energy and time to read a book, and I'm a little worried actually, because I think reading is changing, and not in a good way, but for us to devote time to reading, you have to make the time, and I even find myself pinched for time to read, and reading is the most important thing you could do as a writer. It's active engagement with words. So I also feel like everything's becoming media tie-in in a way, and I do want readers to go beyond just the media stuff and read the author's original works, because that's where they put all their passion.
Yeah, I think if you grow up reading, though, it sinks in. Like, I know the Twilight movies came out. Well, before I could see them, I had to read the books because that's how I grew up reading. I'm a reader. So I think it just depends on the person.
Yeah, it does. But we have a lot of kids that are visually literate now, but they're not literate in the sense of reading, of reading books. So that's a little, I don't know, maybe our generation will keep it going, I hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless the comic pages start talking to us like an audio book.
Yeah,
I can't see that
they are
happening.
now with the Emotion Comics, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, there you go.
We've actually been debating whether to do that with Empire of the Wolf as a kind of a fun experiment to see what you can do with the motion comic and taking that to the next level, because it's kind of like a movie in a way if you can do it right. Otherwise, it could just be like watching a narrated slideshow, which I'd rather just read the comic personally.
Yeah.
But
like Sarah was just saying, then you're gonna lose the whole graphic intention of the panels of the comics.
Completely. Yeah.
Did you say that the Empire of the Wolf is going to be released as a hard copy, or is it just going to be digital?
No, it'll be released as a hard copy. It actually has been released as a hard copy for conventions, convention sales. And you can also you can contact me on my website too, michaelkogge.com. And I do, if you would like one, you can order one from me. It's not a problem if you can't come to a convention. So there are printed floppies of the comic, and then the actual whole graphic novel collected will be the one available. With independent comics now, because the comic readership has shrunk a lot within even the last 3-4 years, it's very hard to sell floppy comics, like one-issue comics, unless you're Marvel or DC, it's very tough to make your money back on that on the single issues. You make your money back hopefully on the graphic novel.
What is your next project after Empire of the Wolf?
Well, I'm working on. I'm also a screenwriter, so I work on a couple of screenplays, and I'm doing another comic with Dan Parsons.
Wow!
Which is, do you guys remember the Dark Empire comics?
Oh,
yeah. What do you guys think of the art? Do you like the art?
Yeah. Oh yeah. When those books just first came out, comics jumped from 35 cents to like $5.
Yeah, completely.
And when they came out, I couldn't afford $5 for a comic book, so I missed out on a lot of those. And I always wished I could get them because the artwork was just stunning.
Yeah, it was. The artwork was spectacular. The Dark Empire is still one of the most beautiful Star Wars books I think ever made. And Cam Kennedy does this kind of watercolor art. It must have taken him forever to do those pages. But Dan Parsons, my artist on Empire of the Wolf, he's also the inker on. He's inked over 100 Star Wars titles for Dark Horse. He's on the Dawn of the Jedi series. He did the Legacy series. He does the new Star Wars, not the Star Wars, but Star Wars, the classic series that they've just redone.
Right. Oh yeah.
He inks those. He's he's drawing my next project. He's painting it actually. We're doing the Cam Kennedy style watercolor. So I'm really excited when I can announce that when we have it done. It's going to be pretty. The art's just spectacular. It's my favorite thing I've ever done. It's pretty cool.
Anyway, if you ever want to announce anything on our show, please. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I will.
We're big fans.
Completely. Yeah, these comics take so long to do that. You're almost like you don't even know when it's going to be finished. So I think that's why it's almost easier sometimes to get a movie made than it is to get a comic book made because the labor involved in drawing and drawing the comic and laying it out. It's not just that one person has to do it. One person has to be the illustrator. Otherwise, things tend to look a little bit different, right?
Right.
So, and for one person to illustrate 5 panels a page of 110 pages, that takes a long time. So,
wow, it's amazing that you can work on so many different projects at the same time.
I wonder. I really can't. But you have to. That's the only thing. It's the only way. And then finally something comes out, and you don't even. It was a long time ago when you actually wrote it or you created it. So Yeah.
Yeah, pretty soon you'll be writing a poem by Zim all about werewolves.
Right, completely.
How did this happen?
Completely.
So where can fans get a hold of you?
Yeah, they can get a hold of me at my website, michaelkogge.com. That's MichaelKogge.com. They can also go to Michael Kogge at Twitter. I'm on Twitter too, if they can connect with me there, if they have questions. And they can go to alternacomics.com, and there they can find out more about Empire of the Wolf, in addition to the other publishing website, swordandplanetstudios.com. So 4 different ways to contact me: michaelkogge.com, Twitter, alternacomics.com, and also swordandplanetstudios.com.
Are you on Facebook?
I am on Facebook, yes. I'm also on Facebook. So, you can get me through Facebook, too.
Okay. If we go on Comixology and search Empire of the Wolf, would we be able to find your comic?
You would.
Okay.
You should, I hope.
Yeah,
Yeah, you will. You will.
Or at your local brick-and-mortar comic book store?
Your local brick-and-mortar will have the graphic novel. They won't have the floppies, but you can order the floppies through me if you go to michaelkogge.com, and you can send me an email, and I'll send you a copy of the print issue.
Great, thank you. When does issue 2 come out?
Issue 2 comes out in January, so it's going to be a monthly all the way to March. So issue 4 is kind of the double issue. It's the big bang, and that I hope will be released in March. And then we'll go to the graphic novel over the summer.
Great!
Nice.
Wow, you are a busy man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much. This has been a lot of fun talking Star Wars, Empire of the Wolf, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's so fortuitous that I happen to walk by your booth.
Yeah, completely.
That's awesome.
Completely. It's so much fun talking to people of like minds. You know, there's a lot we share.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for your time once again.
You guys do a great job. So,
well, thank you very much.
So do you. Issues number 1 and 2 of Empire of the Wolf are now available on Comixology.
This is Michael Kogge, Star Wars author and writer of Empire of the Wolf comic series, and I'm skywalking through Neverland.
Also on Mousedroid Mixer, we have my friend Monique Harr. She will be running the Tinkerbell Half Marathon with me this January 19th, so when this podcast comes out, we may have just already run it and be very, very tired.
I think this will come out in conjunction with you crossing the finish line.
I'll be skywalking through Disneyland. And I finally decided what to wear.
What's that?
It's going to be R2-D2. It may be a Tinkerbell half marathon, but the last 2 years I've been Tinkerbell and I have been Rapunzel, running Rapunzel. So I decided to switch it up because your sister, my sister-in-law, and her family bought me an R2-D2 tank dress, which I am going to convert into a running outfit.
Oh, it's very cute.
It is. It's just, I just need to modify it a little bit so it fits my hips because it's made for like a prepubescent teen girl.
Now, like R2, are you going to have rockets in your arms?
I will.
A lightsaber shoot from your head. Can you project holograms?
No. I'm going to have the Mickey droid ears, the R2-D2 Mickey ears on.
Oh.
Yeah.
Will you be making R2 sounds throughout the race?
Yes.
Nice. You know what? I will get up at 4 a.m. to watch you do this.
Oh, you will? Oh, I'll probably wake up at 2:45 a.m. or 3.
I don't think I'm going to be there.
Oh, and Monique, well, she was going to be Darth Vader, but she actually ended up, I think she's going to be the evil queen again this
Monique
time.
loves the villains.
Yes, she loves the villains. So she will be the evil queen. So now let's hear a little bit from Monique Harr herself. I know you're a big fan of the Run Disney races.
Yes.
Well, can you tell us about your first Run Disney half marathon?
Yeah, my first Run Disney was the inaugural Tinks Half Marathon. After I had sworn I would never do a half. I did one before, and it was misery.
Was that a Run Disney race?
It was not a Run Disney race. It was actually up in Santa Clarita. It was very, very hot. And it was just kind of a goal that I had set. And I'm like, well, I did that, done that, check it off. And
Congratulations on running.
then, I'm like, woo! But I never really wanted to do one again. And then it came out for the Tinkerbell half, and you were like, I really want to do it. Do you want to do it with me? And because I have a really nice guilt complex and can be talked into most anything, I said, sure, I'll do that.
I'm very glad.
I know, I'm very glad too. But it was a lot of fun. Like my whole Run Disney experience is a lot better than the other half marathon that I did. There's just so much going on, and there's so much excitement even before you get there.
Even at 2 a.m.
Even at 2 a.m., you're excited. Even if you went to bed at 1 a.m. and woke up at 2 a.m., you're very excited. But I think it starts when you pick up packet pickup. And that was always fun and exciting to see all the vendors and things that they have. And the merchandise is really fun as well, too. But then waking up at, 2 a.m. to get ready and get in your costume.
Yes,
you have to run in
must be
costume.
in costume, absolutely.
Yes. And then to see everyone lined up for the porta potties. Remember that first picture we took?
do, yes. In fact,
And it was just like
a wall of people.
Yeah,
especially
waiting.
because it was the Tinkerbell.
Yes.
And it was all girls.
Yes.
Mostly.
Yeah, I think there were maybe
There was I think
400?
8,000 girls to 2,000 guys.
Yeah, exactly. So that was kind of fun, but to see it was also fun to see all the fans in the race gear and all the different interpretations of the costumes as well too. But getting in and they keep you excited and pumped in the corrals, even though you might have to wait for a little bit. But once you get started, it's somewhat fun and exciting. They have something around every single corner.
Absolutely.
So you're never really bored. Got to see all of the floats up close and personal.
That's right.
And stop and take pictures of them and get to see back behind. I think that was my favorite moment, is going back behind.
Yes.
No one really ever gets
Backstage.
to go backstage. Yeah, where all the cast members get to go, but
And
mere
we got to
mortals
go,
never do.
Let's see, we got to go backstage in both Disneyland and Disney California Adventure.
Yes.
Before Cars Land was open.
Yes, we did, and that was fun.
Yeah.
So I like that part of it, having all the characters come out that you can take the pictures with. I got a great picture with Darth Vader and Stormtroopers, and so I run Disney as the evil queen, and I think in Tinkerbell it's a lot of fairies and a lot of Prince I run, but not too many villains ran that first year. So that was kind of fun to be the only villain getting to run.
Did you get some people catcalling you or anything?
Not really, but it was like, go evil queen. I'm like, yeah, I could do this. I did get a great picture with Snow White, though, so that was fun.
Oh, perfect.
To get up close and personal and have me, the evil queen, and Snow White.
Awesome.
As well, too. So it's just, they're fun to do. They keep you energized. Water stops are great along the way. And, of course, mile 9. Your cliff shot. That's what you race for. Is I'm going to get there. And then coming back in and around and just having everybody go, yeah, you could do it. And then, of course, the bling at the end is very exciting as well, too.
That's what we run for, I think.
We do. We run for the bling.
Speaking of bling, actually, you and I are both super excited about February 2014 race.
Yes.
At Walt Disney World.
Woohoo!
What made you decide to jump into that one?
Kind of the challenge for it, and I have to be honest, they pinked up the bling for the coast to coast.
Yes, they did. Now, if anybody doesn't know a Run Disney, when you run a Disney race in Disneyland and in Disney World, it's called the Coast to Coast Half Marathon, or Coast to Coast Medal.
Yeah, Coast to Coast Medal is what you get.
Coast to Coast Medal. And what color is the Coast to Coast Medal?
Pink!
That's right.
I know, it's silly, but a color is motivating to us, I guess.
Indeed. And actually, we're both doing the Glass Slipper Challenge, which, can you describe what that is?
Insanity is what that is. But apparently, we're signed up for doing it. So basically, we'll do a 10K on Saturday, and then wake up the next morning to do the half on Sunday to get our Glass Slipper Challenge medal. So not only will we get our Tinkerbell medal, we will get the 10K, the half, Coast to Coast, and the Glass Slipper. So that's 5 medals, kids, that we're going to get.
For 3 races.
Exactly.
And this is February 20th through 23rd, I believe.
Right.
Of 2014.
Yeah, so it's my birthday.
Ooh,
that's why we're doing this. It's my birthday.
Right. Oh, yeah, I'm so excited.
I know.
We'll have to take you out.
I know, I think so.
After we're all, dead, we'll just sit in a restaurant.
You know what you can get me?
Yes.
is you can get me one of the little wheelchairs.
Oh, well, perfect. I'll have to write that down, or maybe listen to
That
this
way
podcast.
I don't have to walk anymore.
Nice. Well, actually, let's talk about what is your favorite Disney character?
Well, that would be the Evil Queen is my absolute favorite Disney character.
Awesome. And that's why you run as the
That's
Evil
why
Queen.
I run as the Evil Queen and have a hard time deciding what else to wear besides the Evil Queen.
I was going to ask, like, do you have any plans for anything else? Any other costumes?
I would like to say that I do, and they may be Mad Hatter, but not really. I always just revert back to the Evil Queen. And
Okay. But I think every year you make it a little better and a little
add
better.
a little bit more to it, do a little bit more, different shirts or different headpiece or whatever, kind of add a little bit to it.
Awesome. You know what? Why is Evil Queen your favorite character?
Well, she's my favorite because, okay, I grew up on the Disney movies pre-air, Little Mermaid. So
Okay.
before the whole resurgence, the movies that I got to see were, from my point of view, you have this one-dimensional heroine just sitting around waiting for something to happen. And then I got all of these villains were actually making things happen. And I thought the queen was just elegant and very strong and queenly. And okay, yeah, so maybe a little misguided in the way she did things, but didn't sit around. She actually made things happen and did things. And I thought that was a little bit more of a powerful image versus the the passive princess just sitting there waiting. And she's an awesome throne room, so I'll just say that, okay?
I never knew that about you. That's a very interesting tidbit.
Yeah.
It makes sense now that you say that.
Yeah, because the resurgence was with Little Mermaid, and then that was more my later middle school, early high school, and so I was totally into that. But growing up, the formative years, it was always the villains that I enjoyed.
So, what is your favorite Disney collectible?
Well, my favorite Disney collectible, it is from a line that came out, I think, when I was in high school. It was from Department 56, and they actually had the Disney Collectors Club. And they came out with a villains line, and it was one of those that you had to be a member of the club to get special collectibles. And I have the queen holding the box.
Are these made out of resin?
They're porcelain.
Porcelain.
Is
Ooh,
what they
nice.
are. Yeah, so they're really, really nice. The queen holding the box. I have her as the witch. I actually have her mirror as well, too. I was able to get Jafar. That was a cool one. And I have Cruella's car.
Wow.
And that's pretty cool. And another awesome one is Maleficent. And it's the turret. And she is on top of it, and like the wind is blowing her robes out, and she's kind of like casting the spell to become the dragon. So that was pretty cool as well too. So those are my favorite collectibles that I have. And I go and I see things now at Disney, and it's not quite the same as it used to be. And in fact, when the Disney Store first came out, they had some really awesome watches and things that were really, really neat and really geared towards adults. And I think it's kind of lost a little bit, but I still keep them. Still have them.
Right.
Yeah.
They've kind of tweaked it merchandise more towards kids, or?
I think it's a little, probably a little more cookie cutter. But if I was to have to say a collectible that I have my eye on now, it's my favorite artist is Noah, and he does all of this awesome work with I got the big evil queen, and I enjoy it a lot.
I love looking at it every time I'm over.
Yes, takes up half the wall, but hey, it's mine. And he has a couple more out that I thought were really neat, and he just does a really great job. So if I could have wall space and unlimited funds, I would probably collect more of his work. Of course, just the evil ones. That's all I want. Not the pretty ones, but I want the evil ones. Okay, maybe the one that's the rose. That one's really pretty, better than that.
That is.
Yeah.
Yes. Is that which character? Sleeping Beauty?
I don't know if it has any character in it. It's just like that multi-dimensional rose, and it's got like a little bit of dew on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I know what you're talking about.
I think so too.
Beautiful. All right. Well, thank you, Monique, for joining us today. And we look forward to talking with you, and I look forward to running with you.
I look forward to running with you too.
Now, there's something we have yet to do, and I'm surprised we have still not attended any of the Star Wars weekends in Orlando.
No.
Yeah, we're kind of not boycotting, but we're holding out.
We're holding out, and we're always busy during that time, unfortunately.
That's right at the beginning of the summer.
Our busy work time. Well, now the Clone Wars series has ended, so like the Clone Wars actors who we know and love, who are always there, I hope they're going to still be attending.
I'm hoping that they're going to pass the torch on to the Rebels voice actors.
For our podcast, we are looking for a correspondent for Star Wars Weekends to come on the podcast and tell us about their experience.
Now, the Star Wars Weekends are going to be held May 16th through June 8th. So if you can make any of those dates, please let us know. Please send us in a report. We'll call and we'll Skype with you. You can tell us all about your adventures.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you're in the West Coast and you want to bring Star Wars Weekends to Disneyland as much as we do, please join our Facebook crusade at facebook.com/bring Star Wars Weekends to Disneyland.
Yes, join us. And together we will bring Star Wars Weekends to Disneyland.
Yeah, and still there still is no insider word to having Star Wars Weekends the weekend that Star Wars Celebration is going to be here.
That's right.
Come on, guys, pick up the pace. Now, speaking of Star Wars Celebration Anaheim,
it's next year.
It is next year. Or, when counting in days, how many do we have?
How many more days? We have 450 days as of January 19th.
I'm just going to put it out there. 450 days until we get Star Wars Celebration Anaheim and Star Wars Weekends in Disneyland. I'm just going to put it out there.
Oh, I see what you mean.
It's an affirmation.
Okay.
I'm sending my midichlorians out into the universe.
It's on your wish wall.
Someone at Disney, connect the dots, please. And then before you know it, December 18th, 2015 is going to be here.
Mm-hmm.
The premiere of Star Wars Episode 7.
Yay! We're going to hear so much more information about that this year. I'm excited.
So, guessing game, how many more days from January 19th?
A little under 700 days. That's my guess.
You're so far off.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not, because I'm looking at it right here, and it's
698 days.
That's right.
See, but by what you'd said, I would have guessed 699. Every day counts.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
So that wraps up episode 14 of Skywalking Through Neverland. Once again, please send us in your comments. Let us know what you want to hear.
So if you can please send us emails, share at skywalkingthroughneverland.com. Tell us how you like the show. Tell us what you want to hear about.
We've gotten a lot of great suggestions over the last couple of weeks, which we'll be doing next week. We'll be reviewing old Disney animated shorts. I myself have never seen these.
Yeah, like the Alice comedies or Oswald the Lucky Rabbit.
We're going to do a commentary, a review, and some behind-the-scenes fun facts from some of our listeners, which will be really fun. And if you yourself want to review one of these Disney shorts, please let us know. Go to share at skywalkingthroughneverland.com.
Also, if you want to connect with us, go to skywalkingthroughneverland.com. You'll see links to Twitter and Facebook. And also, we haven't gotten an iTunes review in a while.
We're looking at you.
So if you have reviewed us, thank you so much. And if you haven't, please go to iTunes, search Skywalking or Skywalking Through Neverland, and just write us a review. That would be awesome. Once again, that really helps us out. And
it helps with the positioning.
Yeah, that's true.
And if you do a search for Star Wars, and the more iTunes reviews we get, the higher on the list we get.
Yeah, or search for Disney
and
podcast.
We can only do that with your help.
Mm-hmm. So help us out. Help us help you.
And help us help you help the fans who also want to be spotlighted on an upcoming episode. Because a lot of you put so much work into fan films and your cosplaying costumes, and we want to let the whole fan community know about you. And the only way to do that is to have you on the show and have people hear you or
see you.
Yeah. We also have the video cast. And let us know what you think about that as well. Because we do an audio and a video cast. And the video one, we put a lot of pictures and some video clips in there so you can see what we're talking about. So let us know what you think about that version.
So see you next week. And remember, Neverland on Alderaan.
Wait a minute. I want a birthday song. Just keep it short. Go ahead.
Okay. This is your birthday song. It isn't very long. Thank you for listening to Skywalking Through Neverland. We would love to hear what you thought of the show. Please send feedback and suggestions. You can email us at share@skywalkingthroughneverland.com. Please visit us at our website, skywalkingthroughneverland.com. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/skywalkingthrough-neverland and on Twitter at skywalkingpod. All material submitted becomes the property of Skywalking Through Neverland and are subject for use on our show. You can help support Skywalking Through Neverland by posting about us on Facebook, Twitter, or just tell another fanboy or girl. We would also really appreciate a 5-star review on iTunes. A link to our iTunes page can be found on skywalkingthroughneverland.com. Skywalking Through Neverland was created and produced by Richard and Sarah Woloski. Segment producers are David Scale, Richard Woloski, Sarah Woloski, and Mark Oguschewitz. Graphic design and website design by Sarah Woloski. Technical advisor is Peter Heitman. Skywalking Through Neverland is not affiliated with Lucasfilm Limited, Disneyland Resorts, or the Walt Disney Company. All names, sounds, and related items of Star Wars and Disney are registered, trademarked, and copyright Lucasfilm Limited and the Walt Disney Company and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All rights reserved. Skywalking Through Neverland is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Hey Hey Entertainment, copyright 2013, all rights reserved. No part of this show may be repurposed, reproduced, redistributed, or rebroadcasted without the written permission of Hey Hey Entertainment.
Sorry, all that had to be said.
Goodbye. Live long and prosper. Wait, sorry. May the force be with you.
And cut! That's a wrap.